Welcome back everybody to part 5 of our Unity Space Invader tutorial series. In the previous videos, we've made it so we can control the player can shoot the aliens, and the aliens can shoot back. Now it's time to create a game manager to control pausing, wave reset, game over, and respawn. So, when you're ready, grab a fistful of quarters, let's crack on. Okay, let's jump right into it. First, let's make sure we've created an empty game object called Game Manager, and then go ahead and attach your Game Manager script to it if you haven't already. Let's continue where we left off in the last video. Let's work on player death and respawn. So, let's go ahead and open up the Game Manager script. Okay, so for the variables, let's start with a public bool paused, which we will toggle true or false when we press a button. When the player has been destroyed, we also want a public game object game over menu to appear. And we want to reference 2, not 3 other scripts. Go ahead and delete the public invader movement alien manager. That was something I left there accidentally in testing. So we only want to reference 2. Those will be the public player controller of the player and a public score manager, which we will create in a future video called scoreman. With our variables set, let's go ahead and create our pause function. To pause the game, go ahead and create a method called void pause game. And all we're going to do is change the value of the game's timescale. The timescale by default runs at 1, and we're going to set that to 0. So punch in time.timescale equals 0f. Then, to resume the game, we'll do the same again and return that timescale value back to 1. There we go. Okay, so with those in place, let's go ahead and create a void called game paused. And inside, let's punch in if paused is true, then we want to pause the game. Else, we're going to want to resume the game, because we are going to toggle this true or false with a button press, which we will do in update. And for the input, let's punch in if input.getKeyDown keycode.escape and this is very important, the player.gameObject.active in hierarchy, meaning the player is alive. Then we want to pause the game, and we also want to toggle pause as false as well. So if the game is paused, then we will set that bool to false and resume the game. That's all we need for pause. We're going to be using this function quite often to control when we want to pause the game upon events such as player death. This is because we don't want the aliens to continue to advance or shoot, because that would put the player at a major disadvantage upon respawn. Speaking of which, we also want to clear the screen of any active enemy lasers. So let's scroll down and create a void called clear screen. And inside, let's punch in for each in the brackets variable called laser in game object dot find game objects with tag enemy laser. So it's going to search the scene for all objects with that tag. What do we want to do with each of those laser variables? We're going to destroy them when we call this method. So we'll simply say destroy laser.gameObject. Okay, with pause and clear screen out of the way, we can now go ahead and work on our player respawn. Scroll down and you will see we have 2 enumerators, player respawn and wave reset. We're using enumerators because they allow us to create timed events in a sequence. Go ahead and delete the slash and asterisk to set them active. I only had this just for convenience during testing. Now we can go ahead and create our player respawn. So, upon player death, what do we want to happen? We want to set the player.gameObject.setActive as false. And then when he respawns, we're going to set it true again. The explosion is going to take 0.3 seconds, if you remember. So that's how long we'll wait before we pause the game. So in the enumerator, we'll say yield return new, wait 4 seconds, in the brackets 0.3f. Then what do we want to happen? Pause the game, clear the screen of alien lasers. Then we'll wait an extra 3 more seconds. So yield return new, wait 4 seconds real time. Because we've got the game paused, if we had this as we had here, wait 4 seconds, it wouldn't count down. So we're going to use real time because it will ignore the fact that the timescale is set to 0. Then after that, we want to resume the game, then set the player.gameObject.setActive as true. That's all we need for player respawn. Let's go down and work on wave reset for the aliens. Here, we're going to do the same as player respawn, but with one major difference. Once again, we're going to yield return new, wait for seconds, 0.3 for explosions. After that, pause the game, clear the screen, wait 3 seconds in real time. Then, rather than manually set active all 55 aliens again, we're going to do something more efficient. We're just going to reload the scene where they're already active and prepared. So we'll use scene manager.load scene. Inside the brackets, the scene we want to load, scene manager.getActiveScene.name. In order to access this code, at the very top of the game manager script, be sure to add using Unity Engine.scene management. So once again, make sure you have this set using Unity Engine.scene management. And then once we've reloaded the scene, just for good measure, we'll resume the game just to make sure timescale is set to 1. In testing, I originally set active all 55 aliens, and because they're using raycast, that caused all sorts of issues. So this, I found, was the cleanest and most convenient method. With that all done, let's go ahead and work on game over. And like we've done in the past, we can keep game over simple. We'll simply say that the player.gameObject.setActive is false, pause the game, and bring up the game over menu. GeoMenu.setActive is true. That's all we need for game over. Let's move on to game reset. Here, all we're going to put for now are 2 things. Scene manager.load scene, just like we did in wave reset to reload the active scene and resume the game. Eventually, we will come back to the game manager and add some extra things such as resetting the score and adjusting player lives using player prefs. But for now, this will do. Hit save, then let's go and make sure we can reference all this in the player controller script. Back in player controller, underneath where we have the public game object explosion, let's add public game manager GM. Then let's go all the way down to the bottom to the void on trigger enter 2D, and where it says instantiate explosion, we also want to call upon the game manager.start coroutine, the game manager.start coroutine, then the name of the coroutine, the enumerator, player respawn. Make sure spelling is exactly as it is in the game manager. Hit save. Then let's go to our invader movement script. And here we're just going to make sure that we have a reference to the public game manager. And if we scroll down where we have in the update the if statement, if the alien count is equal to 0, then we want to make sure that this is active. gm.startCoRoutine wave reset. And once again, spelling has to be exactly like that of the game manager. Okay, let's hit save and head back into Unity. All right, back in Unity, let's go ahead and fill out the game manager in the inspector. It's looking for the player, so let's drag the player in there like so for the player controller script. Game over menu, if you go to score manager, you'll see we have a canvas and an inactive game over menu. All it is, if you set it active, is an empty game object inside containing 2 buttons, reset and quit. There we go, set that back as inactive. Simply drag the game over menu in there like so. Now for score manager, you'll notice that the score manager doesn't have the appropriate script. So what we're going to do is simply create a score manager script, attach it to the score manager, and let's drag it in there like so. Then we also want to set the player up in the inspector with the game manager. Go ahead and drag that in there like so. And let's double check that our Space Invaders has it too. Yep, game manager GM right there. Let's hit save and let's put this to the test. So go ahead have fun eliminating as many aliens as you can. Don't play too perfectly though, because we do want to test player death. There we go. You can see that the game pauses, waits a few seconds, and then resumes once again. Let's fast forward a little bit and see what happens when it comes to eliminating the last few aliens. There we go. Last one is killed. Game pauses, and what you should see is the whole scene reload again, ready for round 2. Fantastic. And there we go. Our player respawn and wave reset work well, but we have no means of calling game over or game reset. We'll cover that in the next video, where we're going to create a lives and a score manager, so please do look forward to that. Thank you all very much for stopping by. I appreciate every single one of you. Please let us know how you're getting on any of our socials at X or Instagram, and we'll see you next time. Take care.